I went through all this anxiety, and it turned out, I finally got up the courage to ask one of the CPAs, and he said, just call them and find out what the problem is. And they said, oh, you didn't fill out this form telling us that you're not in business anymore.
But I'm wondering, what's that one story for you, Joe, in regards to that passion for having people never to fear the IRS audit again? Tell me that story that just gripped you so much that now you're like, hey, I'm on a mission so no one has to feel that ever again.
Well, you know, part of my story is that, my father tricked me into being a CPA. I went to college. I never changed my major. Every single one of my friends changed their major. It was amazing. Actually, one of my most successful friends went in to be a zoology major and wound up being a very, very successful rock star person. Okay, he's not a rock star, but anyway, with me, I graduated college. Well, before I graduated, I said, if I want to be an entrepreneur, I need to actually run a small business successfully. I always had these uh, small businesses, starting with the lemonade stand to ending up with leasing an ice cream truck. Okay, and this was, I'll go quick with this. It was the semester before I graduated. So I leased an ice cream truck. I did everything legal. I signed papers. I signed a lease. I kept records. I everything. I got maps of my route, and I had a blast that summer. I would go to the beach and sell ice cream to kids, and it was like I was the hero when I showed up, and I made money. I went to school with a good amount of cash my last semester. I get out, I get my CPA, job, my first job. 6 months into my job, I get a letter from New York State. It's got a big red stamp on it. It says tax warrant. And there was no internet then. And I thought my career was over. Literally, for 3 days, I thought I had to get a tax attorney. Anyway, I went through all this anxiety. And it turned out, I finally got up the courage to ask one of the CPAs, and he said, just call them and find out what the problem is. And they said, oh, you didn't fill out this form telling us that you're not in business anymore. From then on, and I don't know if it was subconsciously, I said, I got to help these people because I don't want anyone to go through that. I said, it was a simple thing. Leading all the way up to 2 years ago, I fought a lot of battles with the IRS. 2.5 years ago, I said, oh my God, 25 million people don't have the right information. So it goes back to that one letter.
Wow. So you get the letter in the mail. Yeah, you think your career's over. You're feeling like you're maybe going to jail or whatever. They're going to bunch of fines or whatever it is. But all that emotion drove you to where you're at now to help people to keep it
It,
simple, do the right things in the right order, which makes sense. So that's step number one, right? Making sure you're setting up maybe properly the S corp. Step number two, you're actually organizing everything. But or maybe give me your top three steps for people when they first approach you.
Top three steps. Okay, I'll go through the steps that they're the first three chapters in my business mastery course. Uh, the first one is actually three questions. You got to answer these three questions. What problem do you solve? Who do you solve it for? And how do you solve it? Because in my experience, unless you're solving a problem, uh, it's hard to run a business around that. Now, the problem could be that, the problem for people that have a lot of money and don't know where to go on vacation. Okay, that's a problem for some people. But you got to define whatever the problem is that you're solving as clearly and focused as possible. Uh, the second step is You don't have a business unless you have these two things: revenue and cash flow. Forget about the cash flow because people don't get that. That's why they got to hire somebody like me, but you still need it. They usually hire me after they've suffered, from not having cash flow. But if you don't have something that people are going to pay for, you don't have a business. It doesn't matter if you have the cure for cancer. If somebody's not going to pay you for it, you don't have a business. You have a hobby or a not for profit. Okay. And the third thing is really what I specialize in, is to make sure that you're organized properly. If you don't have the right business structure when you start out, it's like building a house on sand. Okay. We build our businesses on bedrock. Uh, and reason being, I've seen too many people start out on the wrong track, get knocked down after 2 years. They go to, an accountant and they say, "Oh my God, what do you mean I owe $20,000 in taxes?" Well, that's what happens when you start a business and you don't educate yourself and you don't know this stuff. So those are my 3 steps,
Excellent.
because
Let me see if I got those.
without
Okay.
that,
So,
yeah,
what problem do you solve? Who do you solve it for? How do you solve it? And then, as a part of that, it's got to be very clear on the problem you're solving. I imagine clear on the person you're solving it for, and also very clear on how you're solving it, as well as establishing some revenue, establishing some cash flow, and making sure you're building the structure on bedrock, right? Building it right the first time. And is that a fair summary so far?
absolutely.